トビデオ
In 2011, Studio Shaft released Puella Magi Madoka Magica. It was a magical girl anime that told us the story of a group of middle school girls who made the conscious decision to become magical girls in order to protect humankind from surreal monstrosities known as witches. The series was praised for its visual direction, its atmospheric soundtrack, and most especially its writing. The anime took what appeared to be a typical magical girl narrative and completely subverted and twisted the tropes associated with the genre. The result is a tragic, Faustian, and above all else, dark take on the magical girl story. This groundbreaking direction made Madoka Magica an instant classic. It yielded sales, accolades, and critical acclaim from anime critics the world over, some even going so far to say, with its daring approach to a dated genre, Puella Magi Madoka Magica essentially does for magical girls what Neon Genesis Evangelion did for giant robots. And like Evangelion before, the creation of Madoka Magica has made a lot of people very angry and has widely been regarded as a bad move. Madoka Magica has become a lot more divisive amongst longtime fans of the magical girl genre, because the last few years have seen the emergence of a controversial subgenre that seeks to emulate Madoka's success: the Dark Magical Girl anime. The Dark Magical Girl anime is a subgenre of the magical girls genre, where the goal is to dismantle the tropes associated with said genre and twist them into something darker and more sinister. Bloody violence and hardcore melodrama may be a core factor of it, but ultimately Dark Magical Girl shows are built on subversion. Whether that be the cute mascot character, the source of the magical girl's power, or just the underlying message of hope and empowerment that is usually seen in typical magical girl shows, the unifying theme of Dark Magical Girl anime is that being a magical girl isn't all that it's cracked up to be. But the problem that fans of traditional magical girl shows see in the Dark Magical Girl anime is that the writers and directors, who tend to be majority male, are taking a genre usually catered towards young girls and distorting it into violent, emotionally manipulative tragedy porn for the older male otaku. Even Madoka itself fell into this trap with the release of the divisive Rebellion movie, which eschewed the subtle themes of hope seen in the original anime and doubling down on the darkness and tragedy aspects. Now, I still like Madoka, and I can get some enjoyment out of some Dark Magical Girl anime, provided they aren't edgy for the sake of being edgy, but I understand where the traditionalist fans are coming from. Dark Magical Girl shows are becoming too much of the norm, and a lot of them lack the clever writing that made Madoka so good. So it's easy to pin the blame on Madoka for starting this trend. But before you do that, let me say something. Puella Magi Madoka Magica was not the first Dark Magical Girl show.
私はエイリアン対策係担当の久川めぐみと言います。今日から皆さんは1年間この第9小学校のエイリアン対策係ということになります。よかったですね。よくない。普通じゃない。
2001's Alien 9 is an OVA I'm shocked isn't more well known. It has all the makings of an anime classic. Good animation, unique art direction, memorable soundtrack, and emotionally turbulent story. And yet, aside from a few pockets of devoted fans, this anime appears to have gotten lost in the aether of early 2000s anime. Alien 9 focuses on a gloomy 12-year-old named Yuri Otani. Per student election, she is forced to join the Alien Party, a team of students whose primary task is to capture otherworldly aliens that appear on school grounds. The only way for elementary school students to safely capture these dangerous otherworldly creatures is through the usage of Borgs, an alien parasite creature that forms symbiotic relations with the students they are joined with. The Borg will protect you from harm in exchange for feeding off your sweat. Since Yuri is a klutz, a coward, and a crybaby who hates and fears all things related to aliens, she constantly has to rely on her fellow teammates, the serious born leader Kumi Kawamura, and the flighty yet skilled alien lover Kasumi Tomine. And the anime slowly metamorphosizes from a quirky sci-fi slice of life involving alien hunting into something a whole lot stranger, scarier, and infinitely more traumatizing. And I'm sure plenty of you are already raising your hands and saying, well, this doesn't seem like a magical girl show at all, KB. This appears to be more of a biopunk sci-fi story if anything, you dumb anime-loving possum. And you would be correct. Alien 9 is a biopunk sci-fi story that also happens to be a magical girl story. I will explain my reasoning later, but before we can really discuss that or Alien 9 proper, we need to discuss what actually is magical girl anime. And what better way to do that than to start with the OG magical girl herself. An American show about Elizabeth Montgomery twitching her nose to manifest cheap special effects was so massively popular, it eventually found its way over to Japan in 1966. From there, manga artist Mitsuteru Yokoyama of Giant Robo fame decided to create a manga centered around a young witch assuming the identity of a normal elementary school girl. This manga became known as Sally the Witch, and it was such an instant hit that it got an anime that same year. And with Sally the Witch, the genre known as magical girl, or Mahou Shoujo, was born. Throughout the 70s and 80s, magical girl anime followed the basic premise set up by Sally the Witch of a young girl with magical abilities trying to fit in with normal society, but grew to establish a lot of the themes associated with the genre. The magical girl is often seen as an innocent, free spirit who must mature and learn responsibility through their magical powers. The magical girl story ultimately was not one of good versus evil, but as a coming-of-age story. This is sometimes emphasized with the magical girl protagonist being a regular human girl who has to use her magic to transform into an older version of themselves to better use their powers. But the ultimate theme of these stories were growing up and accepting future responsibilities through helping others solve problems, no matter how minor. And if they had to save the world along the way, it was almost completely incidental. It wasn't until 1991 that manga author Naoko Takeuchi completely shook up that formula by combining the magical girl story she grew up with the Super Sentai shows that she also grew up with. Sailor Moon reinvented the idea of magical girls not just as young girls growing up, but also as superheroes. This idea of the magical girl is the one that many people think of when they think of the genre, not just as a young girl who has to learn the importance of responsibility, generosity, and self-sacrifice, but also learning the importance of justice, empowerment, and fulfilling one's duty. And here's where Alien 9 comes in. The job of Alien 9 is to take all these conventions and rules of the magical girl genre that have been established over the course of 35 years and flip them on their head. Deconstructions of the conventions of magical girl anime certainly had been done before, but they were never the focal point. Revolutionary Girl Utena has been called a deconstruction of the genre, but it's really more of a deconstruction of the conventions of shoujo as a whole. Alien 9 is a dark, unconventional magical girl story that really wants to examine said genre, and it all starts with the art style. One of the first things that stick out when starting up Alien 9 is the character design. The huge eyes, the big ears, the rounded facial structure, the barely existent noses that don't show up half the time. These borderline plush designs are tailor-made to look as cute and as innocent as possible. Hitoshi Tomizawa, the original author for Alien 9, uses this style to better distinguish the characters from the strange, otherworldly horror that happens around them. His usage of moe, childlike character designs and putting them into strange, disturbing, and psychedelic situations has caused them to be lumped in with the Japanese artistic movement known as superflats. Superflat is a postmodernist artistic movement that got its start right around the same time as Tomizawa was writing Alien 9 by a man known as Takashi Murakami, who you might know as the guy who did this Kanye West album cover and this Pharrell music video. Superflat is a very broad art movement taking influences from ukiyo-e block prints, graffiti, and most commonly, anime, manga, and otaku culture. It has been compared to the pop art movement because what Western pop culture is to pop art, Eastern pop culture is to superflat. Or to put it all in the words of Japanese cultural critic Hiroki Azuma, superflat is not an authentic successor of pop, but it's hybrid, mixed, fake, bastard. Superflat has been used to both glorify and subvert the iconic styles of Japanese pop culture, and that is what we see with Alien 9. The super moe character designs that seem more appropriate for a kids anime are there to lure you into a false sense of security, and even before things get really bad, it makes even the most innocent scenes feel very offbeat.
早くユリ。
The surrealism of the anime extends to the animation. We could go over the smooth action scenes, of which there are very many, but one thing the anime really does well is character movements. The way each of the three girls are animated are there to underline their personalities. Kumi's movements are very straight and professional, highlighting her position as a de facto leader. Kasumi's movements are very capricious yet elegant, highlighting both her eccentric personality and her status as a rich girl. And Yuri's movement resembles that of a small, scared animal. Even when we first see her, we get the impression that she is a fragile little girl who is afraid of her own shadow. There's also the usage of color palette to set the mood. The color palette is bright and lively whenever the anime wants to set a slice of life scene, but whenever things get dark and spooky, the colors begin to slowly grow more muted. It also applies to the girls' dream sequences, where the colors feel incredibly saturated, almost hallucinogenic in some places, to emphasize the dreamlike location. The cinematography also adds to the surrealism by allowing us to get a better feel for the character's mindset. Claustrophobic shots like this can accentuate a character's inner turmoil. Yuri had just completed her first alien mission, but not without getting splattered with alien slime. And after that, it cuts to this close-up where we see Yuri trying to get schoolwork done, but she is still visibly traumatized. And of course, there's the CGI. Computer animation in anime has always been a point of contention, even today, because it looks way obvious and is destined to age poorly in some places. And while the CGI of the Borg does stick out, it actually works in the anime's favor, really showcasing that these creatures that these girls have to wear on their heads are not of this earth. But it is not just the animation that helps give this anime a sense of unease. There is also the voice acting. What better way to show the fear and trauma of a 12-year-old girl being exposed to scenes of bizarre violence than giving her the voice of an actual 12-year-old? Juri Ihata is incredible as Yuri, and I'm shocked she hasn't appeared in more anime. She just sells you on the fact that Yuri is a frightened little girl, and every time she cries, it just pierces the hearts. The other two girls, while voiced by older and more experienced seiyus, are also well played. Kaori Shimizu does a great job in portraying Kumi as a kid forced in a leadership position where she has to keep her head, despite being afraid. And Noriko Shitaya does an excellent job in portraying Kasumi as happy-go-lucky, yet not all there. As for the dub, it's not bad per se, but honestly feels kinda off. The voices given to most of the girls sound a little too old.
Mio, I want to quit the alien party. I'm just not suited for it.
Instead of elementary school students, they sound more like upper middle school students, or in Rachel Lillis's case, high school.
You can skip cleaning duties, and you don't have to do homework.
Monica Taylor as Miss Hisakawa fits quite well, portraying the kindly authoritative tone of an ever-patient teacher.
Listen to me, Miss Otani. If you keep saying to yourself, I'm scared, the Borg will sense that and take it upon itself to kill the alien in order to protect you. They may be aliens, but we must respect their lives, Yuri.
And I also gotta give credit to whomever voiced Kasumi, who also gives a performance worthy of a child who does not appear to be all there.
I love baseball. I love basketball. I love volleyball too. I love lacrosse. I love playing the piano. I love drawing too.
In fact, she sounds familiar. Who voiced her again? Zoe Freeze. Never heard of her. Who is she exactly? Oh my god!
You want to be locked up in a zoo!
I swear to god, I did not intend to review 3 Calvello-helmed animes in a row. These things just happen. Soundtrack is also really well done because it's one that lures you into a false sense of security with its sounds of juvenility, recorders, acoustic guitars, xylophones, children's choruses. It sounds more at home in Azumanga Daioh than it does in a dark sci-fi magical girl show. And for those of you who've been keeping track at home, you've noticed I've pointed out how this anime lures you into a false sense of security with both its art style and its soundtrack. And this ties into the main point of this review that I've been putting off for so long. How Alien 9 is the anti-Magical Girl anime. Alien 9 is a perfect example of a dark deconstruction of a magical girl anime before such a concept even passed Gen Urobuchi's mind. Everything about it is like a basic concept for a magical girl show on opposite day. Let's start with the obvious, the magic, or lack thereof. For one thing, their weapons aren't magic, but tranquilizer darts, butterfly nets, their Borg, and anything they can get their hands on. Their outfits are not girly, fashionable magical girl outfits, but they're baggy gym clothes. They get from place to place not by flying, but by rollerblading. The girls get their powers not from a magical source, but from the disgusting parasitic aliens they wear on their heads. There is no magic in this Magical Girl series, just pure science fiction. Speaking of the Borg, they are not just the weaponry of the series, but also the stand-in for the magical mascot characters. In your average Magical Girl series, the mascot is usually a cute and cuddly figure that serves as either the sidekick or the mentor to the Magical Girl protagonist. The Borg, while seemingly cute, are shown to be slimy, disgusting aliens with a biology that almost seems Geiger-esque at times. Even after her Borg saves her life on more than one occasion, alien-hating Yuri just can't get over her disgust with the alien that's been foisted upon her noggin. Yuri, meanwhile, is a direct antithesis of a Magical Girl protagonist. In normal Magical Girl stories, the protagonist usually has some sort of flaw, whether that be shyness or being a crybaby, but they usually get over those flaws and mature into a capable hero. In Alien 9, Yuri has the flaw of being a cowardly crybaby who is a constant burden on her team, but the thing is, she never gets over that. Throughout the anime, she is either cowering in fear or running to Kumi and Kasumi for help whenever she's confronted with an alien. Even when she's all alone in a frightening situation with no way to get out, she remembers the words that her teacher taught her. And she doesn't gain any bravery from it and instead keeps cowering. And even when she tries to quit the alien party because she feels like she's only slowing the others down and putting them in more danger, the teachers just act like she's trying to quit the soccer team. This is significant because it shows us that the adults of Alien 9 are really ineffectual for the children's welfare. That is because in this world, the supernatural is, well, natural. To the adults, this is what life has always been. Aliens falling from the sky, and children having to take care of them regardless of the danger. And all of this really ultimately ties into the main theme of Alien 9. Alien 9 has been considered an anime that's opened up to a lot of interpretation. One of the most common interpretations is that it's a metaphor for puberty. But that honestly feels too easy to say it's all a metaphor for puberty. Ultimately, the main themes of this anime tie back into the idea of dismantling the Magical Girl story. Yuri is not the innocent free spirit of past Magical Girl stories. She is an innocent forced into a mission she cannot fully comprehend. She never made the conscious choice to join the alien party. That all came down to a class vote. Yuri got voted into a job she knows she is both physically and mentally unfit for, and yet according to the adults, she can't quit. She is not forced onto this path by fate or by her own choices, but by uncaring adults who just see all the violence and terror that she is exposed to as normal. The same could be said for the other two girls. Kumi is almost forced into the leadership role because she's been voted class president for nearly every year she's been at school. Thus, they would see her as a natural leader. Constantly being saddled with the responsibilities of her teammates, alongside having to help her single mother every day, has certainly made her the more mature member of the team, whether she likes it or not. But at a cost, she constantly has to carry Yuri, and sometimes lets her resentment show through.
いつも人の後ろにばっかり隠れて、今は一匹ずつだからいいけど、たくさん出てきたらどうするの？だいたいこんな奴らちっとも怖くなんかないじゃない。
But even though she acts the most adult out of all the casts, Kumi is still a child, and the anime is not afraid to hammer that point home. As for Kasumi, she definitely fits the ideal of a free spirit. However, her eccentricity is portrayed as both a blessing and a curse. It allows her to take risks the other girls won't even bother taking, but it also causes her to not understand any type of danger that she's in. Her free spirit causes her to see aliens as strange, fun creatures, regardless of the threats they pose. But the big reason why Alien 9 is such an effective dark magical girl tale is because the fantastical elements that are shown in this anime are treated with the most absolute mundanity. This is what I mean by the adults treating the horror as something normal. As far as we know, this is what life is. There's very minimal world building aside from knowing that the aliens came down to Earth in 2002, and that this anime takes place many years afterwards. The three girls aren't even seen as heroes, but as hall monitors. All this bizarre imagery, all this trauma, all this terror that completely and utterly breaks these girls down mentally is a facet of everyday life. In a way, even when things go bad, we're still watching a slice of life anime. So would I give Alien 9 a recommendation? Totally. The art style may turn some people off, some people might find the imagery and story way too intense, and the ending might as well just be saying, if you want to know what happens next, read the manga, but you should track this anime down. While it's technically out of print, it is still surprisingly easy to find. Alien 9 should be remembered for setting the foundation that shows like Madoka would later codify, because it's a magical girl story in a world where science is indistinguishable from magic. A world where such magic is normalized, and just how terrifying such a world can be to an innocent soul.